Do you know what you need to do to get better at managing your time but struggle to do it? Today we're going to give you 3 ways to make more time with a new mindset. Hi, I'm Kathy from Magnetic Workplaces, and this is Bill.
Howdy.
Hello, hello. So, Bill, we all know what we need to do to make more time. I mean, the reality is we've got all the time management techniques in the world. Why don't people do that?
I think we don't do it because we sometimes put others before ourselves, particularly in the nonprofit or what I like to call social profit sector.
Yeah.
So people, they think that their time is less valuable than the people that they're supporting.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. Like, you're mean to work on this project, but somebody comes knocking on your door. Can I just borrow a minute of your time? And what do? Sure, you can have a minute of my time, which turns into 20 minutes or an hour, and then you've got to get back on track. So that's one reason why people don't. Another reason they don't is they just don't literally have the time to do the stuff around time management. So one of the things we often talk about in terms of time management is planning. I don't have the time to plan. Like, it's just not a reality.
Yeah, and definitely, people are, particularly now, you think about all of the things that we're going through with the current crisis in healthcare and with COVID affecting so many different organizations. And you're just taking care of the essentials. You're trying to get your staff back to work. You're dealing with new regulations. And it seems like a luxury to actually stop and take time for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Time, even if it's like self-care stuff or planning stuff, like we just don't feel we have that time. And then another reason some people don't do the time management stuff they know they should be doing is a lot of the leaders are, me included, are people pleasers. We don't want to offend anyone. We don't want to make anybody upset if we set boundaries, if we're not available 24/7.
Yeah, I think that leaders in the social profit sector are the reason the "just say no" catchphrase became popular. I mean,
but we can't do it.
No, we have a lot of difficulty doing that, right? You're absolutely right. People pleasing is, I think, almost a job description item for many executive leaders in the social profit sector.
Yeah. So those are some of the reasons why we don't do what we absolutely know we should do. We already know what we should do. Those are some of the reasons we don't. So you and I have developed a 3-step process to help you actually get out of your head in those reasons and actually do some of the stuff we know we could do to help us manage time better. You want to jump in with the first step?
Sure. We talk about asking and answering. So we need to be able to ask the question of ourselves and then come up with an answer and be honest with ourselves in the answering of the question.
Yeah, and the question is, what do I already know I need to do? So again, I already know that I need to shut my door and not let people interrupt me. Or I already know I need to work at home once a week, or now all the time. Or I already know that I need to block off certain things in my calendar. We already know what we need to do. So that's the first step, is to ask yourself that question. What is it I already know I need to do?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that part of it is making sure that we're honest, as I said, with that question. And I mean, when anything like this, the answers coming out the other side are only as good as the questions you're asking yourself. And really, there's nobody else you're answering these to, so you might as well be honest with yourself.
Exactly. Okay, the second step.
The second step is to bravely explore. And so to make sure that you are willing to go someplace where you haven't been before, perhaps there's been something kind of twigging at the back of your mind about all of this, but you haven't been willing to really explore what that's all about. Here's an opportunity, because again, it's just you. It's an internal process you're going through. Nobody can see it or hear it or feel it. And so being honest with yourself again about, what are those things that are getting in the way.
Yeah.
And part of this is because we have a fundamental belief, you and I, that the answers are within ourselves, right? And it's just finding a way to dig down deep enough to pull them out and to examine them in the light of day.
Yeah, and we talk about creating a magnetic workplace, and one of the sort of fundamental drivers of creating a place where people want to be, love being, is curiosity. And so this step is really about getting very curious. And so we're asking 2 questions in this step. And again, it's really important that you're non-judgmental, that you're, not sarcastically answering the questions, but honestly exploring the answers to these 2 questions. The first one is, what do I believe about why I can't do that? So in the example that we're talking, let's use one example, taking breaks rather than powering through. So I already know that I need to take breaks. So what's sort of a thought process that somebody might have, Bill, about why they can't do that?
Well, sometimes it's about time pressures that are very real. So I think we need to distinguish between the ones where you're on a deadline and you do need to complete a task versus the ones where what I call self-imposed deadlines.
Yeah.
I need to complete this by the end of the day. Why? Well, because then it'll be out of the way.
Yeah.
And that may be true that it'll be out of the way, but what is the cost to you in order to make that happen?
Yeah.
So that's a really critical first step from my perspective.
Well, and let's use that one as an example because I'll push back a little bit. So the question is, what do I believe about why I can't do this? And maybe I believe that it's due at the end of today. So I do have to pressure through it. The second question is here, what alternate thoughts will help me find more time? So when we are really stuck in that process where we're like, I have to just power through today. I just have to get through today. And that thought is holding us steady. An alternate thought that we might have is, yes, it's due at the end of today. But if I step back and just refresh, go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, get out of my chair for 5 minutes, I'll actually be more productive in the next 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, I think that's the really critical piece is that people understand that there's more than one way to handle any given situation. Yeah. And everything we know about, the time that people put in without taking breaks is, we become less productive. And so we do need to take those little opportunities to get up, stretch. You and I were talking about this just before the call about how sometimes, we get up and we're almost crippled because we've been sitting in front of our Zoom calls for so long. So being able to take that time, it really seems strange that we're asking people to take time in order to make time.
Yeah.
But that really is the critical aspect here.
Yeah. And if you're watching live and have questions for us, pop them in. If you're watching this on the replay, pop them in. We'll answer your questions as well. So the first step is to ask and answer, and you're asking yourself, what do I already know I need to do? Second step is bravely explore 2 questions. What do I believe about why I can't do that? And then what alternate thoughts will help me find more time? Third step is commit to communicating. You want to tell them about that one, Bill?
Yeah, we want to continue with the ABCs of our 3-step process, right? So we had ask and answer. Of course, there's A, bravely explore, there's B, and commit to communicate. So what we've talked about up until now is an internal process. It's me going through, a series of questions, asking myself a variety of things, being honest with myself. That's great. Now I have some awareness about it. But the only way that we get to action on that awareness is by communicating what we've been thinking about to others. And sometimes that takes some bravery, some courage to be able to make that happen, to sit down and say to people, I really do need to communicate with you some things that are important to me about our time together. And here's what that is. Now, the key here is that we're just talking about getting that word out there, because if we were to say, for instance, that the next step is going to action, you might lose some opportunities after you've communicated with others, people who have great ideas to help you move forward. So this interim step between going from yourself to action is really committing to communicate to the people around you.
Yeah, and there's 2 questions that we're asking, or that you're asking yourself. When will I communicate this insight? And then how will I communicate this insight? So if we go back to our example right now, you might just kind of go, okay, it's a long day. The due date's at the end of today. I just got to power through it. And you might go, okay, wait a minute. I wish I had more time to get this done. You do this quick inner process. Why do I think I don't have more time? I know that if I just stepped away, I would be more productive. What stops me from stepping away? Here's one of the things that might stop you. I hear this often is you're in your office, you're working hard, and you know that if you get up to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, do whatever, and you open your door, it'll be like, woof, everybody's got a question for you right away. And so you don't want to leave your office because you're going to be bombarded with questions. And so you know that you're going to have to open the door and say, I don't have time for questions. I'm just going to the washroom and then I'm going back into my office because we all know I have this deadline today. That's hard to say. For some people, they'd rather go, oh yeah, I'll just quickly answer your question. And again, that turns into a half-hour conversation. So that comes back to that courage or being brave or being vulnerable, saying, actually, I'm just going to the washroom. Like, don't ask me questions. And when we talk about how will I communicate this insight, one of the strengths of some leaders is something like humor. And so it's like, I'm just going to put my fingers up and pretend I can't hear you. And you walk to the bathroom, right? It's the how you're going to do it versus coming out going, don't talk to me. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And being aware that each time you stop, it takes you away from what it was that you were doing. There's all kinds of evidence that, if we leave something and then we come back to it,
25 minutes.
Yeah, multitaskers know this, right? You've got 2, 3,
Doesn't
4,
work.
5 windows open on your screen and you're bouncing back and forth and you go, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Where was I on that document? So, you need to just be able to communicate that to people. Right now, I need to be uni-focused on this so that when I'm done with it, I can be uni-focused on you. Mm-hmm. And here's the time I'm willing to give you and when.
Which leads us into our second example. Let's go through this one quickly. So one of the things that people know they need to do is spend more time coaching and mentoring. I know I need to spend more one-to-one time with my staff. So step 1 is ask and answer. What do I already know I need to do? Spend 5 or 10 minutes with each of my staff once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever you know you need to do. So then, Bill, if the second step is bravely explore, what are some of the things that they believe why they can't do that?
Well, I think it comes back to, a belief about time and what time is available. And also, I think with everybody's busy schedule, it's, will my time match up with somebody else's time?
Yeah.
And if you're doing it with more than one person, so for instance, if you were spending time coaching a team, now you've got to coordinate that many more schedules.
Yeah.
So I think one of them is scheduling and making sure that everybody's available. I think another one might be, a kind of a sense that perhaps people aren't needing it, aren't wanting that time, and that you may think they need it, but they don't think they need it for themselves.
So what alternate thoughts will help them find time to coach and mentor?
Well, I think that for the last one I just mentioned, part of it is to, I'm going to ask people what it is they need rather than make some assumptions. So I'm going to check out with them what's going to happen. Another piece is that, I think that I can use technology to support me in the development of time across various schedules, that it doesn't necessarily need to be something that is face-to-face in order to come up with the time to meet. We can throw out some options via electronic means and see where that takes us.
Yeah. Okay. So third step, commit to communicating. So how would they communicate that insight? When and how?
Yeah, I think with coaching and mentoring, it has to be some kind of face-to-face, whether it's, an opportunity to meet 6 feet apart in an office space because you're coming together again, or if it's through video conferencing. Whenever you're talking about interpersonal relationships, that they need to be face-to-face in some manner, shape, or form.
So the communicating, the commitment part might be an email, might be, like you said earlier, about scheduling the system. I will sit down and use, what's that scheduling tool called? Not calendar. Yeah, there's a couple out there where you can go, here are the options I have. So yeah, I'll commit Thursday afternoon at 4:00 to sending that out to all 3 of my direct reports. That's what it is. It's pretty simple. It's just making that commitment to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there are all kinds of technologies available. Google Calendars is an easy
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think that's the difficulty for people at all. It's just simply settling on one and deciding that that's an efficient means of being able to bring people together.
Okay, so Bill, run through the 3 steps to make more time.
3 steps to make more time. ABCs. Ask and answer. Okay, make sure that you're asking and answering. Second one is bravely explore, and the third one, commit to communicate.
Absolutely. And when you do those 3 steps, you will actually make time with a new mindset. Remember that you're shifting your mindset. You're shifting the way you're thinking about the problem. Not why isn't this going to work, but what can make it work. What new thinking will help me make it work. Anything else we want to wind up with?
Just the last thing, and that is that once you've committed to communicate, that's actually the jumping off spot to real action occurring and real change.
Yeah. And that's takes some work and effort. This
does.
isn't a one-time thing, and this isn't going to change things dramatically for you and magically make more time in your schedule. This is an ongoing commitment that you have to do to think of time in a new way.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. If you guys want to find out more information about Bill and I, head over to magneticworkplace.com. The link is down below. And look for, what's the 12 ways to engage in your team? Is that right, Bill?
Yes, that's right.
There we go. So there's a little print off there that you can get access to help you engage in your team more, because when you engage with your team, that's what creates that workplace, that culture where people are drawn to it and want to be there. And that's it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.